Good morning, everyone. I want to start today with a simple but powerful truth. Your mind is not the enemy. It's not some beast to be tamed or some fortress to be conquered. Your mind is part of you. It's a tool, a companion on your journey. And like any tool, it can be shaped, directed, and harnessed to serve your deeper purpose. We all know that life is full of challenges. There's no avoiding that. Sometimes it feels like we're at war with our own thoughts. We feel overwhelmed, stuck, or even paralyzed by our internal world. But I want to suggest something radically different today. You have the power to control your mind, and with that power, you have the power to change your life. It starts with a simple question. Do you believe you have the ability to shape your thoughts, or do your thoughts control you? When we talk about controlling the mind, we're not talking about suppressing or ignoring your feelings. That's not control, that's avoidance. We're talking about recognizing that your thoughts are not facts. There are often stories we tell ourselves, stories shaped by past experiences, fears, expectations, and outside influences. But they are stories, not truths. So how do we start? The first step is awareness. Become conscious of your inner narrative. When you feel that rush of self-doubt, that inner critic telling you you're not enough, take a moment. Pause. Recognize the story. Name it. This is the I'm not good enough story. Acknowledge it for what it is, a story, not a reflection of your worth. The second step is compassion. We tend to beat ourselves up for having negative thoughts, for being weak or flawed. But it's okay to have difficult thoughts. It's human. In fact, it's in those moments of discomfort where we grow. Show yourself compassion like you would to a close friend. Speak kindly to yourself. You're doing the best you can in this moment. That's enough. The third step is intention. Now that you've acknowledged the story and embraced compassion, you can ask, what do I want to believe instead? When we can create space between ourselves and our thoughts, we can begin to shift our mindset intentionally. It's about choosing a new narrative, one that's grounded in who you truly are and what you deeply value. The truth is, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who gets to decide what to believe. And you can start today. You can start with small, everyday moments. You can challenge the thoughts that keep you stuck and replace them with ones that help you grow. Now, this doesn't mean that the hard stuff goes away. It doesn't mean that fear or doubt won't show up. It means you've started a practice of inviting the space to respond differently. It means you've begun to trust yourself and trust your ability to make choices that align with your true self. In closing, remember this, your mind doesn't control you. You have the power to shape your thoughts. And when you take control of your mind, you take control of your life. So be kind to yourself, be intentional, and never stop believing your power to change the story. Awareness is the first and most crucial step in controlling your mind. It begins with the simple act of paying attention to what's happening in your inner world, particularly the thoughts that arise throughout the day. Many of us go through life on autopilot, reacting to situations based on automatic thought patterns we've developed over time. We often don't question these thoughts. We simply believe them to be true without realizing that they are just mental construction stories we've been telling ourselves. These stories are shaped by a variety of influences, past experiences, cultural conditioning, personal beliefs, and the narratives we've inherited from others. For example, if you grew up in an environment where success was defined solely by external achievements, you might carry with you a belief that your value is determined by your accomplishments. Or if you faced repeated failure in certain areas, you might have internalized the idea that you're not capable or that you don't deserve success. These stories often shape how we interpret new situations, how we view ourselves, and how we relate to the world around us. When you begin to practice awareness, the goal is not to judge these thoughts or immediately try to change them. Instead, it's about becoming an observer of your own thinking. It's about stepping back from the flood of mental chatter and simply noticing what's going on in your mind. You might find that many of your thoughts are repetitive, self-critical, or fearful. You might realize that some of your mental patterns are based on outdated beliefs that no longer serve you. But here's the key. The more you observe, the more you begin to recognize a very important distinction: you are not your thoughts. This realization is liberating because it opens up the possibility of choice. For example, if you have the thought, I'm not good enough, you can recognize that thought as just that, a thought. It's not who you are, nor does it define your worth. By simply recognizing it, you create space between yourself and the thought. This space is where change happens. Often, our tendency is to immediately latch onto a thought and react to it, reinforcing the very narrative it creates. When we believe a thought without questioning it, we act in accordance with that belief. If we believe we're not good enough, we might hold back from pursuing opportunities or speaking up, reinforcing the belief further. However, when we practice awareness, we can start to see that we have the power to question these thoughts. We can ask ourselves, is this thought really true? Is this belief based on reality, or is it just an old story that I've internalized over time? This process of awareness can be deeply transformative. It helps us understand that thoughts are transient and not permanent truths. Thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. They can be observed without attachment. By developing awareness, you begin to realize that you don't need to react to every thought or emotion that arises. Instead, you can choose how to respond to them, and in doing so, regain control over your mind. In this practice, you'll also notice how many of your thoughts are influenced by fear, anxiety, or insecurity. These are often the voices of your inner critic, the part of your mind that tries to protect you by keeping you small, safe, and comfortable. Becoming aware of these thoughts allows you to see them for what they are, protective mechanisms that may have served you in the past, but no longer need to govern your life. Compassion is an essential component of controlling your mind because it allows you to meet your inner thoughts with kindness rather than judgment. Often, when we experience negative or uncomfortable thoughts, our instinct is to criticize ourselves for having them. We might think, why am I so weak for feeling this way? Or I shouldn't be thinking this, I should be stronger. This reaction creates an additional layer of suffering because it intensifies the negative emotions, reinforcing the very thoughts we are trying to move past. The practice of compassion helps us step outside of that cycle and treat ourselves with the same care and understanding that we would offer to a close friend. When you begin to show compassion toward yourself, you acknowledge that you are human, flawed, imperfect, and struggling just like everyone else. You recognize that it's okay to have difficult thoughts or to feel overwhelmed. In fact, it's entirely natural. The mind is a complex and sometimes chaotic space, and it's unrealistic to expect that we can always control or silence the negative thoughts that arise within us. When you approach yourself with compassion, you make room for those thoughts without letting them define you. Instead of thinking, I shouldn't feel this way, you might say, it's okay to feel this way right now. I'm doing my best, and that's enough. This shift in mindset can be deeply healing. When we treat ourselves with compassion, we stop the pattern of self-criticism that often exacerbates feelings of anxiety, guilt, or shame. Instead of feeding the negative emotions, compassion interrupts that cycle, allowing us to approach the thought or feeling with understanding and care. For example, when you have the thought, I'm not good enough, you don't automatically accept it as truth. Instead, you pause and say, this thought doesn't define who I am. It's just a thought, and I'm going to give myself the grace to let it pass. In practicing self-compassion, it's important to understand that it doesn't mean you're excusing bad behavior or avoiding the need for personal growth. Rather, it's about accepting that you are a work in progress and acknowledging your imperfections with kindness. Compassion helps you to stop beating yourself up for the areas where you struggle and instead embrace those struggles as part of your human experience. When you can show yourself compassion, you open up the space to move forward with more clarity and resilience. Another key aspect of self-compassion is the ability to forgive yourself. We often hold on to past mistakes, failures, or regrets, and these memories can become a source of internal conflict. We may think, if I hadn't done that, things would be different. But when we practice compassion, we give ourselves permission to release these burdens. We can say, I made a mistake, and that's okay. I've learned from it, and I am moving forward. Compassion allows you to let go of the weight of past mistakes and create a healthier, more positive relationship with yourself. It's also helpful to remember that showing yourself compassion is not a one-time thing, it's an ongoing practice. Just as we would consistently show care and kindness to a friend, we must make self-compassion a regular part of our mental and emotional routines. It might feel unfamiliar or even awkward at first, especially if you're used to being hard on yourself. But with time, it becomes more natural, and you'll find that the more compassionate you are with yourself, the more easily you can manage difficult thoughts and emotions. Intention is the practice of consciously choosing how you want to think, feel, and act in any given moment. It's about deciding what narrative you want to create for your life, rather than letting your circumstances or the automatic flow of thoughts dictate your actions. Our minds are often filled with noise, random thoughts, worries about the future, regrets about the past, or the opinions of others. But intention is about quieting that noise, narrowing your focus, and making deliberate choices about what you want to invite into your life and what you want to leave behind. When you approach your mind with intention, you begin to recognize the power of your choices. Every thought, feeling, and action is a reflection of your choices. You choose how to respond to a challenging situation, how to interpret the words or actions of others, and how to view your own capabilities. This doesn't mean you can control everything that happens to you, but it does mean that you have control over how you react to what happens. Setting intention involves getting clear about what matters most to you. It requires tuning into your values, desires, and goals, and making sure that the way you think and act aligns with these things. For example, if you value kindness, you might set the intention to respond with patience and understanding in moments of stress. If you value growth, you might set the intention to view challenges as opportunities to learn rather than obstacles to avoid. It's about creating a mental framework that guides you toward what you truly want, rather than letting your mind wander aimlessly or get stuck in negative thought patterns. One of the most powerful ways to set intention is through the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you cultivate awareness of the present moment, making it easier to identify what's truly important to you and to respond in ways that are consistent with your values. When you practice mindfulness, you're not reacting automatically to your thoughts or feelings. Instead, you're observing them and choosing how to engage with them. This might mean pausing before reacting to a situation, giving yourself a moment to check in with your feelings and thoughts, and then deciding how you want to proceed. Intention also plays a vital role in changing the way you think about yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing your thoughts about your limitations or failures are set in stone. However, by setting the intention to focus on your strengths, capabilities, and growth, you begin to reshape your self-concept. If you've always believed that you're bad at public speaking, for instance, you can set the intention to view each speaking opportunity as a chance to improve, rather than as something to fear. This shift in mindset allows you to gradually change your thought patterns and behaviors, reinforcing a more positive and empowering self-image. Setting intention requires discipline and practice. It's not about instant results, but about consistently aligning your thoughts, feelings, and actions with your higher purpose. When you choose to live with intention, you actively shape your experience of the world. You stop reacting out of habit or fear and start responding with purpose. It's about understanding that you are not a passive observer in your life, but an active participant who has the power to influence the course of events. One of the challenges of living with intention is that it demands self-awareness. To set a meaningful intention, you need to understand where you're currently at, both mentally and emotionally. You need to reflect on what's driving your behaviors and thoughts, and then decide if that aligns with the person you want to become. The process of setting intention is ongoing. It requires continuous checking in with yourself and refining your focus as you grow. But with practice, intention becomes a powerful tool for creating the life you desire. Separation is the practice of recognizing that you are not your thoughts. This may sound simple, but it is a powerful shift in perspective. For most of us, our thoughts are the lens through which we experience the world, and we often believe that what we think defines who we are. However, when we truly understand that our thoughts are separate from our identity, we begin to break free from their grip. The idea that you are not your thoughts means that you can observe your thoughts without automatically identifying with them. Thoughts are fleeting, they come and go, often influenced by external factors, emotions, or past experiences. They are not static truths, and they are certainly not reflections of your core self. The key is to step back and create space between who you are and the thoughts that arise in your mind. When you can make this distinction, you free yourself from the tendency to get trapped in negative thinking or self-criticism. And think of it like a passing cloud in the sky. You see it, you notice it, but you don't become the cloud. You don't grab onto it and let it dictate your day. You observe it as it drifts by, knowing that it's temporary and that it doesn't define the overall sky. Similarly, thoughts are transient. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it needs to control your actions or shape your reality. Often, the issue is not the thought itself, but our attachment to it. We tend to believe that every thought we have must be true or must be acted upon. For example, when the thought "I'm not good enough" arises, we might immediately latch onto it and believe it as if it's an absolute truth. We start to shape our reality around it, letting it influence our behavior, our relationships, and our self-worth. But when we can separate ourselves from that thought and simply observe it, we create a moment of choice. Instead of automatically accepting the thought, we can pause, take a breath, and decide how we want to respond. One of the most liberating aspects of separation is the ability to challenge your thoughts. When you understand that you are not your thoughts, you can examine them with curiosity. You can ask, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it aligned with who I want to be? This questioning allows you to push back against limiting beliefs and negative self-talk. For example, if you think, I'll never succeed, you can ask yourself, is this true? What evidence do I have that I can't succeed? Often, we'll realize that these thoughts are based on fear or past experiences rather than actual truth. Separation also provides a sense of freedom. It gives you the ability to observe the mind's patterns without getting caught up in them. The more you practice separating yourself from your thoughts, the less power they have over you. This doesn't mean that negative thoughts won't still arise, they will. But by creating that separation, you create a buffer between the thought and your emotional reaction to it. You begin to realize that you have a choice in how you respond. This practice is not about suppressing or avoiding thoughts. Instead, it's about acknowledging them without letting them control your actions or define your identity. It's about seeing them as temporary mental events that come and go like waves in the ocean. Some waves might be big, others small, but they all eventually recede. When you make the distinction between yourself and your thoughts, you regain control of your mind and your emotional state, empowering you to live more consciously and with intention. Mindset shift is one of the most transformative tools available when it comes to controlling your mind. It's the process of changing the way you perceive and respond to the world around you, especially when it comes to challenges, obstacles, and setbacks. Our mindset shapes how we interpret situations, how we interact with others, and ultimately how we see ourselves. A mindset shift is not just a change in thought, it's a fundamental change in how we view the world and our place within it. Many of us operate from a fixed mindset where we believe our abilities, intelligence, and characteristics are static, unchangeable qualities. We think of success as something we either achieve or fail at, often viewing failure as a reflection of our inadequacy. When we adopt a fixed mindset, we avoid challenges because we fear that failing at them will confirm that we aren't good enough. This way of thinking can be limiting and self-defeating. We may avoid taking risks or trying new things simply because we don't want to face the possibility of failure. However, a mindset shift invites us to embrace a growth mindset. A growth mindset is grounded in the belief that we can always learn, evolve, and improve. Instead of seeing challenges as threats, we begin to see them as opportunities for growth and development. With a growth mindset, failure is no longer a verdict on our abilities, but a stepping stone toward mastery. It becomes a natural part of the learning process, something we can learn from rather than be defined by. The first step in shifting your mindset is recognizing when you are operating from a fixed mindset. This requires self-awareness. For example, when you're faced with a difficult task or an unfamiliar situation, what is your initial reaction? Do you immediately doubt your abilities, think that it's too much for you, or believe that you're not capable of succeeding? These are all signs of a fixed mindset. Recognizing these thoughts is essential because it allows you to consciously shift your perspective. Once you're aware of when you're in a fixed mindset, you can begin to challenge these limiting beliefs. You can ask yourself, what would happen if I saw this as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat? By reframing the situation, you open yourself up to a new way of thinking. Instead of focusing on the outcome, you focus on the process. This shift from outcome-focused thinking to process-focused thinking is a key part of developing a growth mindset. Another crucial element of a mindset shift is embracing effort. In a fixed mindset, we may think that success comes easily to those who are talented or gifted, and if something feels hard, it must mean we're not good at it. However, in a growth mindset, effort is seen as essential to success. The more effort we put into something, the more we learn and grow. It's through effort that we expand our abilities and move closer to our goals. Instead of thinking, I can't do this, we start to think, I can't do this yet. A mindset shift also requires a change in how we view setbacks. When we experience failure or face obstacles, it's easy to interpret these as signs that we are not capable or that we've reached our limit. But when we shift to a growth mindset, setbacks become valuable learning experiences. They are not roadblocks, but feedback. A setback is simply information. It shows us what isn't working and gives us the chance to adjust our approach. Instead of feeling defeated, we feel empowered to try again, armed with new insights. This shift in mindset is not an overnight change. It takes practice, patience, and persistence. It involves consistently challenging old ways of thinking and replacing them with new, more empowering beliefs. The more you practice this shift, the more natural it becomes to approach life with a growth mindset. The more you embrace challenges, learn from mistakes, and put in the effort, the more you will see your abilities and confidence expand. A mindset shift doesn't just change how you think, it changes how you live. Trust is one of the most powerful forces when it comes to controlling your mind. It is the foundation that allows you to step into your own power, make decisions with confidence, and embrace the uncertainty of life with resilience. Trust is often something that we think of in relation to others, but it is just as important to trust ourselves, our instincts, our decisions, and our ability to handle whatever life throws our way. When we trust ourselves, we are less likely to be swayed by self-doubt or external criticism. Instead, we stand firm in our beliefs and actions, guided by the inner knowing that we are capable and resourceful. Self-trust begins with the acknowledgement that you are enough just as you are. It means letting go of the need for perfection and accepting that mistakes and imperfections are part of being human. Trusting yourself means recognizing that no matter what happens, you have the ability to navigate challenges, adapt, and learn from your experiences. When you trust yourself, you no longer feel the need to second-guess your decisions or wait for validation from others. You make choices based on your values, your needs, and your understanding of what is best for you. Building self-trust requires consistent action. It's not something that happens overnight, but rather through the accumulation of small daily decisions that align with your values and goals. Every time you honor your own voice, take a step toward your dreams, or follow through on a commitment to yourself, you are strengthening the trust you have in your ability to make sound decisions. Conversely, every time you ignore your intuition, backtrack on your word, or betray your own needs, you erode that trust. Trust is built on integrity, the alignment between what you say, what you believe, and what you do. One of the biggest barriers to self-trust is the fear of failure or making mistakes. Many of us are conditioned to avoid failure at all costs, viewing it as a reflection of our inadequacy. But in reality, failure is an essential part of the learning process. When we trust ourselves, we understand that failure is not something to fear, but something to embrace. Every failure is an opportunity to grow, to learn more about ourselves, and to refine our approach. Trusting yourself means being willing to take risks, knowing that even if things don't go as planned, you have the strength to pick yourself up, learn from the experience, and continue moving forward. Trust also involves embracing vulnerability. It's about being open to uncertainty and letting go of the need for control. In life, there are no guarantees, and we cannot predict every outcome. But when we trust ourselves, we trust that we can handle whatever comes our way, even if we don't know what that will look like. Trusting yourself means allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to make decisions without having all the answers, and to take chances without the certainty of success. It's the willingness to show up fully present, even when things feel uncomfortable or uncertain. Another key aspect of trust is the ability to silence the inner critic, the voice in your head that tells you that you're not good enough, that you'll never succeed, or that you should have done things differently. This voice is often rooted in fear and past experiences, but when you trust yourself, you learn to quiet it and replace it with a more empowering inner dialogue. You remind yourself that you are capable, that you have the tools and resources to face challenges, and that you are deserving of success and happiness. The more you practice self-trust, the more you become attuned to your own needs, desires, and boundaries. You begin to make choices from a place of inner confidence, guided by your intuition rather than external influences or fears. You stop looking to others for validation because you no longer need it. You trust that your own judgment is enough. This trust creates a deep sense of inner peace, knowing that you are aligned with your true self, and that no matter what, you are capable of navigating the complexities of life. In conclusion, controlling your mind is a journey that begins with awareness and is nurtured through compassion, intention, separation, mindset shifts, and trust. Each step empowers you to break free from the automatic patterns and self-limiting beliefs that often hold you back. By developing a greater understanding of your thoughts and responses and learning to approach yourself and your experiences with kindness and curiosity, you unlock the potential to live with greater clarity, purpose, and resilience. Ultimately, the practice of controlling your mind is not about perfection, but about choosing to live consciously and in alignment with who you truly are.